actually we are in a certain sense a victim of our own success. We've extended the human lifetime, and we have average lifetimes now in the range of 80 years. And if the science and technology and medicine continue to advance, theoretically we could reach the age of 100 years as an average lifespan. So the societal implications are that instead of setting people off to pasture, as they say in English, at age 60 or 65, we have to find a way to maximize the use of the accumulated knowledge, especially that these people have. Because as a person grows older, I can remember in the case of my own father, it was only when he was approaching his 90s that I, as his son, started to listen to him, because he knew so much more. And I finally realized how much more that was. So I think that there is a, theoretically speaking, there's a positive element in this pandemic and in this disaster. And that is that it should give us a greater respect for our elderly. And people have said that, in fact, one of the reasons why this virus struck so heavily in an Asian society where they do respect the elderly, and why it struck so heavily in Italy, is because Italy also has a higher degree of respect for its elderly and for the family than one would find in a Western society in America, where the elderly are more often than not sent off to old age homes because it's too difficult to deal with them. That's a literal quote. So we appreciate this.
Of course, what you're saying, I want to stress one point, is that this pandemic is teaching many lessons. Of course, when we are in trouble, we are worrying about the tragedy of people dying, etc., and infection. But there are many aspects are induced by the virus which are indeed positive. A different attitude of people toward each other I see in Italy, but I think it's the same in the other countries, that there is more people which is available to volunteer in helping the others, and in helping also not only the elder people, but everyone who is in a weak condition. This is positive because, of course, usually the attitude is completely different. Other positive side effects are that some forced changes are indeed positive. I look to the problem of climate changes, for instance. Of course, now we look that there is a strong reduction, or let's say, weakening of the impact of CO2 in the air, because, the problems we have with the economy means that we are burning less coal, less oil, etc., and so you are injecting less CO2 in the air. Here in Italy, we have the valley of the River Po, which is typically a sort of container of dust and NOx, etc., and various kinds of polluting agents. Now the situation is better. If you look at the valley from the satellite, now you see a rather transparent atmosphere, which is not the case in general. We have witnessed an incredible growth of air transport in the last 10, 15 years especially. And this is, on one side, again, is a good thing because allows people to move around effectively from one point of the world to the other. But indeed, it is the kind of transportation which has the greatest impact in the atmosphere. Now, the world air transport is reduced well, more or less to a half of last year. Well, this per se is positive. Of course, the problem is that all changes in such a society like ours, in our economy, all changes immediately have an impact because we should be able to change the work opportunities of people. We must, allow people to find some different activities, and this is not easy. This is a problem for the governments who should decide and introduce policies that give stronger mobility to the workers, to people who are changing their activity. But fundamentally, this kind of forced changes are positive. The same happens, I see, with forests, wild areas, etc. The fact that people are not around, like it happens in these days, I spoke with some friends of mine who works in some wild areas here in Italy and the Piedmont in particular. Well, now the situation for nature is extremely good. The wild animals are, now expanding again. Of course, there is always a problem of the size of the kind of fluctuation, positive or negative fluctuation, of course.
Yes,
too much is too much. But now, for the moment,
people have
this
been
is
noticing
positive.
this in not just in Italy, but all around the world. The reduction in the emissions of CO2 and the reduction in the use of petroleum-based fuels and products has resulted in a cleaning of the environment. Now, I'd like to jump a little bit off the planet on this subject. We know that there are people in the United States like Elon Musk and, of course, the government of the United States and European Space Agency, which are looking towards colonization of other planets. Do you think that the existential threat that we've recognized in this virus, although it didn't reach the level of, let's say, the Spanish flu of 50 million dead and so on, will it give an impetus to the increase of science and technology in the aim of creating new human settlements in other places? In other words, the colonization of Mars would be the first priority that the colonizers would suggest. Will there be a linkage, even if it's a subconscious linkage, to the fact that, yes, there could be a catastrophic event on Earth, be it thermonuclear war, or be it viruses, or be it a cataclysmic natural disaster, a meteor strike? Will the result be a heightening in interest of the human colonization of other planets?
Well, this, I think, is a sort of, this is a situation which has been described many times, and I should say very effectively, in science fiction, which sometimes is not just for fun, but it is something which actually, doesn't really predict, but is presenting situations which could be possible in the future. I think that the idea that going to other planets and transferring the humankind there is in the world of illusion, however. Actually, we can do something here. We are not doomed to die. The whole humankind is doomed to disappear from this planet because we are those who are in a position to change the way we are relating to each other and relating to the nature and the environment. We can do this, and we can solve the problems and the troubles we created. The idea of going away, well, it actually is related to some sort of elite illusion. I mean, this is like people who think that, well, there are some billion, now a little bit less than 8 billion people in our planet. If there is a global crisis and global collapse, some could save their lives with high technologies, going to Mars or whatever. But this means that there is an elite who is thinking that I can do it and the rest is not important. We are all, well, brothers, of course. We are all in the same condition. We cannot think that someone can do it and go away and the rest doesn't matter. We all have the same importance. We have the same relevance. Everyone, the weakest and the strongest, it doesn't matter, has the same kind of troubles and problems, and we have to solve them together. Well, I'm dealing with space because in my... Yes?
Yeah. So in effect, the virus is creating a rehumanization, even in science.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, of course. We have to look at technology. Technology is fundamental. But technology is for the humans. Technology is not per se, is not an absolute. Technology is an instrument, and knowledge is above technology, because the illusion of our global economy now is also that technology solves everything. We now see that technology doesn't solve. Technology only solves specific, well-defined problems and nothing else. But above technology, there is science, which is not technology. Technology is just an instrument, a tool. Science is understanding the global features of the system in which we live. And we must realize that science discovers some rules which cannot be changed. An illusion we witnessed in the recent centuries that was that we can change the constraints and the rules of the world around us. So at the center, people were putting economy and relations, exchange between among us, etc., etc. And the environment beyond this kind of relations is flexible and can be modified. It is not so. Now we see it. We have a clear evidence of that. The rules of the game, physical rules of the game, biology, physics, etc., cannot be changed. We can use them, but of course, remembering that some final results are not depending on the fact that a parliament has decided one way or the other. They are just depending on thermodynamics, physics, conservation laws, etc. So, okay for space. Because it enhances the knowledge of the science, the understanding of the physical mechanism of the universe. I'm interested in that, I'm working in that. But this doesn't solve the problems we are creating. If we get conscious, we are conscious of our role, we realize that we must change our behavior, not just looking for some magics which will bring us to other galaxies, who knows. In the case of science fiction, one doesn't just go to Mars, but farther on, of course. But this of course, cannot be used as an illusion. We should remember that the future is up to us.